feeling guilty because I can't give my kids what they really need.
It is startling to see in this country of abundance, families going hungry.
You feel like you just can't do anything.
Tonight, a rare look at how the Great Recession is hitting Americans you don't often hear about.
I had to swallow my pride. I have to feed my children.
The already vulnerable, the poor.
I have approximately $20 to my name.
A family of 14 living in one house.
Where did you sleep?
On the floor with my husband.
A father laid off again and again and again.
You've worked for 10 companies that have gone under.
Yeah.
They were already struggling, just managing to hang on. Now this economic crisis is pushing them over the edge.
They're not asking to be rich. They're asking to not be hungry.
And who will help?
Dear President, we
A
need
plea
help with our
on
food
empty plates.
You have a sense of outrage that this is happening in America.
I do. This is the promised land.
And lessons in resilience. America Now, friends and neighbors. When Dateline continues. Good evening and welcome to Dateline. I'm Ann Curry. All across America, it is happening. People are hurting. For some, this economy may be turning around, but millions of families are at risk of going hungry in one of the richest nations on earth. The number of Americans visiting local food pantries has jumped 30% in the past 2 years alone. And here in this rural region of Ohio, the very heart of America, the need is especially urgent. The story's poignant. Tonight, a personal look inside the lives of families who've had it all vanish. Jobs, homes, and dreams. How do you choose between paying your bills and feeding your kids?
I'm 87 and I'm standing here for food to help out with the household.
Before they came to us, they went to their church, to their family, to their friends.
It feels like you go back to the Great Depression.
There's no jobs here.
They tried everything before they had to come to a food pantry and say, I don't have enough to feed my family.
Among the wizened valleys and rolling slopes of southeast Ohio's Appalachian foothills, pride and quiet desperation are breaking into a cry for help.
You know, I have family to feed.
Here, a resilient people with deep traditions in mining, manufacturing, and military service are bitter and frustrated waiting in food lines, an increasingly common feature of the American landscape. Some 40 million Americans, including 1 in 5 children, are now living in poverty. For a family of 3, that means living on less than $18,000 a year.
Every time you turn around, you're making a choice. It keeps coming down to food versus other things that you have to live by.
On any day of the year, you can find Lisa Roberts in the tiny southeast Ohio village of Lottridge, handing out cans, boxes, and fresh produce at the Friends and Neighbors Food Pantry, where she is director.
How are you doing today?
Wonderful, wonderful. How about you?
Good.
In the past 9 months, she has taken Dateline on a journey into a hidden America, an America where families are living on the edge, where many feel invisible and believe they have been forgotten.
This region, then, as far as you can remember, has had a large number of very poor people. But has it gotten worse?
Oh yeah, way worse.
Born into a poor farming family, Lisa has seen it firsthand. She was just a few months old when in 1964, President Lyndon Johnson came here to promote his newly declared war on poverty, because people in this region have been so chronically poor.
Where no child will go unfed, and no youngster will go unschooled.
But Lisa never saw that vision realized here.
You grow up and you're gonna have kids, live on the farm, and it's gonna be great, you know?
Dreaming of marriage and children, she left school in 10th grade. But after the marriage didn't work out, as a single mother, she was often unable to feed her 2 boys, much less herself.
There just was nothing left. So I popped up the whole bag of popcorn, tried to convince my kids that we were having a popcorn party, and that's what we had for dinner that night.
She says being hungry herself propelled her towards a new calling. She remarried and began helping her father-in-law gather food for people in need.
He was really, really good at this job. It became a ministry, and then when he died, the people were already dependent on that food.
So Lisa picked up the reins, and with support and donations from friends and neighbors, her food pantry was born.
It was an emergency thing there. It's not an emergency thing anymore, it's an everyday thing now.
Over 13 years, she has built a nonprofit that punches well above its weight. With 2 trucks, this small donated space, and a dozen regular volunteers, including herself,
thank you, dear.
Lisa feeds as many as 3,000 people every month, a number that has risen sharply since the Great Recession began nearly 3 years ago.
Okay, you get 1 cereal.
Lisa lets people choose from whatever she has, a mark of respect because people often feel uncomfortable asking for food.
Try the rosemary.
Like Anita Hayes and her partner Jim Skipper.
The pantry probably helps us out a good 75%.
75% comes from
Yes.
the pantry.
Yes.
Is that hard?
The first few times I had to swallow my pride. But I wasn't doing it for myself. I have to feed my children. They come first.
Anita, who works in a bakery, and Jim, who's unemployed, are raising Anita's 2 children, Lydia, 14, and Lyle, 9, in an old 30-foot camper.
Tell me about this space now. Do you and Jim sleep back there?
Yep. Our bed's back there. The table folds out to a bed for Lydia, and Lyle sleeps on the left seat.
But storage has got to be an issue. I mean, where do you put all your clothes?
Cadillac.
You mean in the car?
Winter clothes in the summer, we're keeping those out there, and then the summer clothes we keep in here.
That's actually pretty smart. You use it as storage, not to drive.
Yes.
A power cable strung from a neighbor's trailer gives them electricity, but something much more valuable is lacking: running water.
I'm going to take a shower.
Every time they need to take a shower, use the bathroom, or do their laundry, they walk 40 yards across the dirt to their neighbor's trailer.
I'm walking over here every day and having to take my shower, and then I have to walk all the way across the yard. And sometimes my feet get dirty again, and then I have to wash them off when I get over there.
Though the children get a break most weekends when they stay with their father, the camper is home during Ohio's unforgiving winters.
There was nowhere to escape unless you wanted to go outside in the cold. You just kind of put up with each other and deal with it.
How frustrating is it, you guys, living in such a small space? What does that mean?
Right here.
Uh-oh, right here, what?
Always mad at the camper.
It all weighs heavily on Anita and Jim.
I'm feeling guilty because I'm not giving my kids what they would like to have. My daughter just wants a room. You know, my son wants room to play. That's my sacrifice, is that I can't give my kids what they really need.
And sometimes that means a bowl of cereal for dinner in a household where the children are growing up fast.
They've said it before. It's better than nothing, Mom.
They're trying to make you feel better?
Yes.
You know, they're like little grown-ups.
What would you do without the food pantry?
Wow. That's a hard one.
Hope we never have to find that.
Lisa Roberts is trying to make sure they never have to.
Most of the people that come to us don't just need food today, they're going to need it next week and the month after that and after that.
You have a sense of outrage that this is happening in America.
I do. The America that my parents raised me up was, you know, this is the promised land.
Lisa's outrage has grown in the last 3 years as unemployment has skyrocketed in the Great Recession, bringing more people to her pantry. Early this year, convinced that the state of Ohio wasn't doing enough to help, Lisa and her colleagues in Ohio's emergency food system decided to go right to the top. If President Obama could see just how bad things were, they reasoned, maybe he would do something.
Dear Mr. President, I want...
First, there were daily emails to the White House. Then they came up with a creative scheme.
I want as many as I can get, okay.
They would invite people in food lines to write on empty paper plates, a symbol for hunger, becoming letters about what hardships people were facing and what was getting them down. My husband worked all his life to take care of us. He died hungry.
That one kills me.
Then they would send the paper plates en masse to the White House.
Give us some help. The situation here is bleak.
So you're talking about sending thousands of plates to the President of the United States?
Yeah. Some of them got people's phone numbers on them. He can call back if he wants.
You have a little bit of a rebellious snicker there going on.
Oh, I just think that he's awful busy and he's probably not going to call back, but I hope that he'll read them and I hope that he'll understand that that plate that he's holding is a person.
We support 4 kids and cannot make the ends meet at mealtime.
As Lisa kept handing out paper plates and food, she was alarmed by the increasing number of people who were showing up for help. And she wondered if her pantry would survive the strain in the brutal months ahead. Coming up, a father raising 2 sons is in dire need. Used to working hard, now hit with a recession's hard luck.
You've worked for 10 companies that have gone under.
When America Now, Friends and Neighbors continues. As winter gripped the tiny village of Lottridge in southeast Ohio, Food Pantry Director Lisa Roberts was also facing a blizzard of new bills and paperwork.
The biggest worry that I have on this day is that there won't be enough food in the kitchen to feed all the people that are here. Let's eat.
The new numbers were serious. In February, they showed a 20% surge in clients, and Lisa's pantry budget was creaking under the strain. A grant from a Catholic charity would carry her, perhaps, through the next 4 months. But with no more financial support in sight, she faced stark choices.
You can choose to feed less people more food or more people less food. And when more people are showing up on your door, I can't turn them away.
You're where the buck stops.
Yeah.
By now, Lisa's paper plate campaign to President Obama was underway, and she wasn't surprised that so many letters were pleas for jobs.
Here we go.
For Lisa, the need for jobs is personal. The recession has made it tougher for her husband to find construction work. And since his last steady job was 10 years ago, just getting by is a constant struggle. Though there are patches of wealth and prosperity here, Ohio University, textiles and medical businesses, the area has suffered generations of job losses. Once thriving coal mines closed decades ago. Manufacturing jobs have drifted to other states or overseas since the 1980s. And now, with the recent economic collapse, smaller businesses have folded, pushing unemployment to an estimated 20% in some places. Today, only the luckiest have jobs.
I've always wanted to give my kids more than what I had.
Lisa's client, Anita, who's been living in a camper for nearly 2 years with Jim and her children, considers herself lucky. It's nearly 10 p.m., and she is starting the night shift on the counter at McHappy's, a donut store 10 miles from home. On $7.30 an hour, in a good week, she takes home just over $200. Other weeks, she's making just $130.
$6.99 out of 10.
How do you make ends meet on your salary?
It's paycheck by paycheck. Buying groceries, putting gas in the car, putting money back for the following week for gas to get to work. I have approximately $20 to my name.
She wants to work more and needs to make more. $30 a week in food stamps and about $130 a week in child support helps, but it is not enough.
All our extra change we always save just in case we need it. And like there's a place that we can go to and cash it in for money. And it helps us out sometimes if we go up there and cash it.
Like I said, I've had to do this a couple times. But
A year ago, Jim, now 50, had steady work at a printing shop, making about $320 a week. Now he often brings home just $100 a week doing odd jobs.
I haul junk down the road to the crusher, cut grass, just doing whatever until I can find something, you know, full time again. But it's hard with all the people getting laid off. You know, that's what makes me feel bad. I can't support my family better.
He just said something, though, very poignant. You said it makes him feel bad to not be able to give you guys.
Yeah, he says that a lot, I know. It makes him feel like less of a man, and it hurts me because I know it hurts him. You try and try and try, and when you don't get anywhere for so long, I guess it's hard to make that next step to try to make things better because I'm so exhausted.
They're not asking to be rich. They're asking to not be hungry, to be able to pay their bills and buy their medicine. That's not too much. It's not their fault. It's not the people's fault.
Why do you say that so much?
Because I see how hard they work. Sometimes you'll hear, oh, you know, they're just laying back waiting for a handout. They could go to work if they wanted to go to work. They'd rather be on welfare. They'd rather have 100 kids. It's not true.
It's a sentiment we heard all over Southeast Ohio.
They've got to get meat and steak.
When we first met Air Force veteran Daniel Zimmerman, he was driving a truck for the state-funded food bank, which supplies food to pantries in Lisa's area. He was happy for the work, but also a little frustrated too. His minimum wage salary was a far cry from what he made 25 years ago when he operated a crane at a steel plant.
They said I was the best crane operator they'd had in 30 years. And that you don't have to worry about getting laid off.
What happened to that job?
5,000 of us got laid off. It's probably more than 10 companies that I've worked for that have gone under.
You've worked for 10 companies that have gone under?
Yeah. 3 pizza businesses have gone under while I've worked there. I've tried trash collecting. I've tried septic cleaning. I've had a lot of jobs.
In January, he beat out 70 other applicants to get the food bank job. The work was steady, but the $7.25 an hour just wasn't enough to support his 2 sons, 14-year-old Adam and 12-year-old Matthew. So he spent hours at the library scouring the internet for a better job. In March, after weeks of searching, he found a plum $600 a week trucking job and immediately resigned from the food bank. But after just 3 weeks, the new job folded because the company went under, and Daniel was again laid off. As for the food bank job, it was already gone, snapped up as soon as he left. You said you get beyond desperation. Describe that.
You're numb. You don't have any feeling about the loss or the opportunity that went down.
Daniel, sign your name there on the...
Daniel, who only a month before was delivering food to those in need,
There's some bread there in that box here.
now needed a food pantry to feed his own family. What gives you hope now?
I don't know if I got too much hope left. You go from $800 one week to nothing, and you have to sell everything you own, and you still have nothing.
With nothing in his pocket, Daniel took his boys to get free clothes. And then he started having desperate thoughts. He started thinking they might be better off without him, living on supplemental security income.
If I wasn't here, they'd get SSI from me.
So what are you saying?
That I'm worth more dead than alive.
At around the same time in March, Lisa Roberts was hitting rock bottom too. Without any warning, the electricity to friends and neighbors was cut off. An accounting mix-up meant the electricity bill had not been paid for 3 months. The refrigerated food would spoil if Lisa didn't get it turned back on, but that meant she suddenly had to pay $1,400, an entire month of her budget. And she now had maybe 2 months of funding left.
Now we are one disaster away from going under. That's not comfortable. You just can't get ahead no matter how hard you try. Every time that you think, okay, we're doing pretty good. Well, now that's been shortened down by another month. And a month is a whole bunch of people.
Coming up, 14 people forced into one house. A mom is close to the breaking point.
To beg everybody you know to take care of your kids, it makes you feel really crappy.
When Dateline continues. In March, Friends and Neighbors Food Pantry was running out of funds fast.
That'll give me just a little bit of leeway.
And Lisa Roberts was exasperated.
We are struggling, really struggling.
The paper plates kept coming. People pleading for food and for jobs. And as the cold weather continued, they asked for a warm place to sleep. Daniel Zimmerman, who had been in and out of work, was also struggling to keep a roof over his head. His housing troubles began 2 years ago when his landlord sold the plot of land where Daniel lived with his sons in a trailer.
So I lost a house, and I had to keep on struggling.
A friend intervened and let Daniel and his boys live in his tumble-down house as long as Daniel paid the utilities.
So where would you sleep?
There on that mattress.
But in the winter, as Ohio's bitter chill gnawed the region, the gas heater blew up and a fallen tree took out the power line.
So I put a wood burner in. It was the only thing we could do for heat.
But you have to keep feeding a wood burner. It doesn't last all night.
Best you can do is about 5 hours. If you wait till 5 hours, it's down to where you can't get it back going again.
So for weeks, Daniel slept in squalor here in his basement.
I've got a comforter, a mattress, and then this is foam insulation to reflect the heat.
In freezing temperatures, stoking the wood fire every 3 hours to keep his boys warm, in a scene reminiscent of the Great Depression.
I've been doing this for over 30 years, and I don't ever remember a time when things have been as hard for poor people as they are right now.
Jack Freck is Director of Job and Family Services for Ohio's Athens County.
It doesn't seem like what we expect in America is what I expect in Africa.
It may not be what we expect, but it's what we accept. You know, all kind of arrangements are being made out there because people can't afford decent housing on their own. What's happening is families are doubling and tripling up in their housing, bringing their children and their grandchildren in.
Cora, please watch out.
He might be describing Sonny Mash's family in Nelsonville. When we met them earlier this year, 14 family members were living in a 4-bedroom house.
Most people have no idea what it's like to live in a house of 14 people, and being one of those people.
It was kind of crazy, really. I mean, with all the limited space.
Where did you sleep?
I slept in the bedroom, on the floor with my husband, and 3 of our kids slept on the beds. We just pushed them together to make like one big bed.
The home belongs to Sonny's parents. Sonny, her husband, and 4 children moved in 2 years ago when her father got sick.
And you try to be a good daughter and help your mom.
Right.
And that created a situation in which you were stuck.
Right.
Stuck because she quit a good job packing produce to take care of her sick father and couldn't find other work.
And there was no job to be had. Did you work at all during that entire time?
No, I didn't.
And neither did her husband, who had experience in construction but couldn't find a job.
I mean, you could apply at the same place 10 times and never hear anything. No matter what your qualifications are or anything, it just didn't matter.
Soon, Sonny's brother Todd lost his home and moved his family in too. But no matter how many beds the family pushed together or floor space they cleared, there just wasn't room for everyone inside.
Now, Todd, he wouldn't go in for a while until he got really sick. He was coughing up blood and everything, and that's what finally got him to move into the house from the tent.
People were sleeping in the tents during the winter?
Yes.
How cold was it in those tents?
Just as cold as it is outside, sometimes single digits.
Inside the house, the hallway was stacked with bags filled with clothes, makeshift closets. Reclining chairs doubled as beds.
I'll sleep there sometimes. Tyler will sleep. Tyler and David usually sleep here. My dad sleeps there.
Small children live in the same spaces as grandparents, aunts, and uncles.
That must have been very stressful.
Yeah.
Another of Sonny's brothers managed to find work at Wendy's, but for the most part, this family of 14 was living on Sonny's mother's Social Security checks, $563 a month.
That works.
Sonny bought food in bulk at a discount grocery store and chose generic brands to save pennies.
I look at the price. Even if it's just a penny difference, it saves something.
She prepared hearty meals, but food was often scarce as her food stamps ran out well before the end of the month.
Kids, I always make theirs first, so they always get plenty. It's just the adults that usually end up going without.
Sick of feeling poor, vulnerable, and powerless, the stress was often too much for Sonny.
You know, I don't like to see my kids hungry. I hate asking other people to do stuff for my kids, but, you know, when you're so poor, it really makes you feel like crap. You can't do anything for your own kids. You feel really, really bad. You feel like everybody else is doing everything for your kids, and you just can't do anything. If they need something, and you just don't have the money, there's no jobs, you can't get a job to be able to have the money to get what they want or need, and you have to beg everybody you know to take care of your kids. It makes you feel really crappy.
What does it take to lift a family from this kind of pain? Soon, Sonny would find out, as her life was about to change.
Yeah.
And so was Lisa Roberts, as she was wondering whether Friends and Neighbors would have to close its doors. Coming up, a heartbreaking journey from straight-A student to struggling single mom.
Zero. So you're getting by hour by hour, not just day by day.
I'm trying to.
When America Now, Friends and Neighbors continues. By April, the snow was gone, and so was Lisa Roberts' confidence that Friends and Neighbors would survive, with as many as 3,000 people depending on her for food.
Next month, I'm really going to be getting out on a limb there. Something has to happen between now and next month.
As much as she was helping others, Lisa frequently found herself torn.
I'm going to have to go. That is Christopher. His sugar is up to 190.
During our 9 months with her, we often saw her leave the pantry to help her 16-year-old son, Christopher, who was recently diagnosed with diabetes. Lisa believes his illness developed because of a bad diet when he was younger. She made emergency trips to take insulin to his school.
When he was younger, were you not feeding him more or differently because of money?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Macaroni and cheese is cheap. And I thought, as long as they go to bed with their tummies full, that's okay. It's not.
It sounds like you're blaming yourself for his diabetes.
Because I can't take care of him.
Have you cried over this one?
Yeah, constantly.
He was an 11-year-old boy from Meigs County. Even our squirrels are starving.
Lisa's own struggle with poverty inspired her to help other mothers and their children. Single moms and their children make up 60% of all American families living in poverty. And in the past 9 months, we saw Lisa working all hours to reach some of them.
As a mother, I am very grateful to know that I can count on a food pantry when I desperately need it.
As Lisa collected more paper plates, she was especially moved by the children's letters.
Dear President, we need help with our food crisis, and if you would help us, that would be great. Thank you. Sincerely, Hannah McKinley.
It's hard to wonder why the children don't do good in school. If they're not getting what they need at home, then the rest is not going to come together. That's our future.
It's a situation 21-year-old Crystal McCoy knows all too well. By the time we met her, she was homeless and had spent the entire month of November in frigid temperatures, living in a van with her 3 children, ages 3, 2, and 1.
I'd drive around and I'd find like a dark, secluded spot to go to sleep.
Was it cold?
Yes, it was cold. You know, when you had nowhere else to go or nowhere else to stay, it's the only place you can go.
You must have been desperate.
Yeah, just a bit.
Unable to afford even the basics, Crystal was hand-making diapers for her youngest, Davy, stuffing kitchen towels into a pair of underpants.
Are you ever afraid that you can't feed them?
Yeah, sometimes.
It was just a few years ago that Crystal herself was a child, her father a mechanic, her mother a caregiver. Her parents struggled to get by. Even so, Crystal became a straight A honor student and dreamed of a life in music.
I seriously wanted to become a singer. I love singing.
Crystal had academic ambitions too, inspired by her biology teacher.
I like dinosaurs. I think they're fascinating. I said if I couldn't become a singer, then I could become a paleontologist.
Crystal clung to her dreams, even though in her junior year of high school, she got pregnant.
Then I got pregnant with my first son, Robbie. And I was like, okay, I can still do it, you know, but then I ended up pregnant with Mary Beth, and I ended up dropping out my senior year. That's when reality kind of stepped in, and it went down the drain.
So all these years in high school, did anybody teach you about birth control?
Yeah, they did. It's just one thing leads to another, and you do have accidents, you know.
Crystal got about $800 each month in food stamps from the federal government. And since the fathers of her children didn't help Crystal financially, she was eligible for a 3-year cash assistance program from the state of Ohio. In April, that 3-year period ran out.
So before, you had how much money coming in?
$536 a month.
And now, how much money do you have coming in?
None.
Zero?
None. I have nothing.
So you're getting by hour by hour, not just day by day?
I'm trying to. Right now, my goal is to try at least make my life a little bit better.
Crystal can occasionally stay with her grandmother, where her children sleep on the floor. But relations are fractious, and they often all end up back on the streets.
There are always going to be people who can't work. There are always going to be people who make rotten decisions. You know, let's face it, people who make bad decisions are likely to end up poor. And most of those folks, you know, are families with children.
Athens County Welfare Director Jack Freck sees many young mothers like Crystal and says state and federal programs just don't help them enough.
Our staff work their butts off to get these people every dime they can. But at the end of the day, when we've done everything we can do, we send them out of here knowing that it's very likely that the last couple weeks of the month they're going to have to go to a food pantry to get enough food to eat.
You sound a bit angry about this.
I'm very angry about this.
Poor people are the first to suffer the consequences of an economic recession, and they tend to be the last to get the benefit of any recovery.
Ted Strickland is the governor of Ohio.
Have you done enough?
I would never say that I've done enough. What I've tried to do is maintain the essential social services for our people, but they are wholly inadequate.
Strickland is the governor now, but he himself grew up in poverty, not far from Lisa Roberts.
We got indoor plumbing in my house when I was in high school. We took our baths in the creek in the summertime. But that's the way life was for most people in this region.
A chance to go to college was his path out of poverty, which is why he's focused on education as the solution, increasing funding to schools and colleges, and encouraging new initiatives like this mobile technology education unit for kids K through 6.
We've got to raise the aspirational level of our kids. We've got to help them in so many ways to envision a different life.
What you're talking about is a squandering of America's resources, that America could be greater if we didn't squander these young people who just didn't get a chance.
Absolutely. The fact is, these are not acceptable circumstances. We are a rich country, and so I hope, as people see what you have shown, that they do feel not just uncomfortable, but anger.
Critics do say Strickland, who is up for re-election, could have done more to help the state's poor. And there is concern about what he'll cut, given the state's looming $4 billion budget gap this year.
It's a big budget gap.
They have to find the money somewhere, Governor.
Well, let me tell you, I'm not cutting food programs, and I will fight to the death to keep from cutting education.
On the other hand, he says, there is a lack of political will to help the poor, and he blames what he describes as a radical change in America's attitude over the last 25 years.
It became stylish to be selfish. It's almost acceptable to be prejudiced against poor people.
Prejudice.
Prejudice. In some ways, we've lost our way in terms of our moral compass.
The state of Ohio doesn't directly fund pantries like Lisa's. But even as the outlook for friends and neighbors seemed so bleak, Lisa Roberts was unwavering in her mission. And amid all the hardship, suddenly she had a reason to hope. And she's not alone. Another family gets a lucky break at last.
So this is it. Wow, look at that kitchen.
When Dateline continues. During our 9 months with Lisa Roberts, we witnessed men and women struggling to feed their families, children sleeping in basements, and infants living in cars, conditions we've come to expect in other less privileged nations. If you think these are rare, isolated parts of 21st century American life, consider this. Poverty in America increased by at least 2.5 million people in the Great Recession and is reaching its highest level in nearly 2 decades. And a new Duke University report published by the Foundation for Child Development projects that by the end of this year, nearly 22% of American children will be living in poverty. That's an increase of nearly 5% in the last 4 years. Still, we were struck by the resilience of the people we met in Southeast Ohio. Despite one setback after another, they would not give up. When we last caught up with Daniel Zimmerman, he was still looking for work, selling anything he could to scrape by. His sons were pitching in too.
I can get some more money for this camp. And I can just add it to the 20 more I've got upstairs somewhere.
You need this economy to change fast.
If I had an offer to go do something somewhere, I would go do something somewhere.
You'd move.
Oh, yeah.
Take your boys and move.
As for Anita and Jim, still relying on Lisa's food pantry, they are determined to find a better home with more room for Lydia and Lyle to grow up and just be kids.
The trailer that you might want to move in is... Oh, I see, it is leaning. Wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. This dwelling is unfit for human habitation.
That's another closed door.
But like so many here, Anita and Jim were stoic about their situation.
We try to be grateful for what we have, because it could be worse. For real. It could be a lot worse.
He said it before, if we can make it in this camper, we can make it.
Crystal wasn't giving up either, in spite of some emotional setbacks. After she confronted one of the fathers of her children, she was arrested for assault, went before a judge, and served a weekend in jail, a weekend away from her kids.
I miss my kids.
Crystal says jail taught her a harsh lesson, not to let anything keep her away from her children. In June, she was preparing her kids for preschool, while at the same time trying to get on her feet. And rediscovering her singing ambitions, Crystal has now made it through the final stages of a local talent competition.
I knew he must have been about 17.
The winning prize, $50. But just this last week, Crystal got a break she hardly dared hope for. She was approved for subsidized housing and moved into a new home with her children, all off the streets at last. And Sunny Mash got some amazing news as well.
We just got lucky.
After being unemployed for 2 years, her husband scored a full-time job in construction. And there was an impossible-to-imagine bonus, a new place for their family to live, the rent deducted from her husband's paycheck.
So he got a job and you got a home in one fell swoop.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what I said. Wow. Finally.
No more sharing bedrooms and bathrooms with her parents, brothers, nieces, and nephews. This 4-bedroom house was all theirs.
So this is it.
Complete with Sonny's dream kitchen.
Wow, look at that kitchen.
Yeah,
That's
this is my favorite
huge.
part of the house.
But we can carry it over.
And for Lisa Roberts, who has helped thousands of people through difficult times and whose food pantry was teetering on the edge, suddenly a lifeline. Emergency federal funding was channeled at Lisa's pantry, and she received a check for $5,000.
Thanks a lot.
Very, very cool. It's going to go into the account today, and it is going to help so much. It is going to help pay the expenses here, the electric bill. Yeah, I am excited. This is cool. Thank you
I'm just
very
delivering.
much. I know you're just delivering, but I'm happy enough to hug you anyway.
That and another donation from a local business would keep her pantry open for another 7 months.
Winter's tough. Tough time. So yeah, I'm real glad we made it.
Friends and neighbors had survived some of its most difficult months ever, but Lisa is going to need a lot more help in the months and years ahead.
Dear Mr. President,
by June of this year, Lisa had collected more than 1,200 letters written on paper plates.
We pray daily that there will be some relief.
She packed them all up for mailing to Washington, D.C. A simple cardboard box containing all those wishes written by hungry people made its way to the White House and into President Obama's mailroom.
It's gonna work. Yes. We did it. Kind of like a pipe dream.
But if he heard the people, if he reads what they have to say, if he sees that there are so many of them, surely that'd make a difference.
You seem to waver between hopefulness and helplessness.
I know it, darn it. You have to stay hopeful or you're going to cry, you know? How am I going to face the people that are going to come through here without hope, without a smile, without, come on, you know, it's going to get better. We can pull it together.
What do you imagine for Ohio, this place you call home?
I want it to be strong again. I want that strong fighting spirit that exists to overcome. It is beautiful here. It is our home. And it can be good. It can be.
Take a risk, take a chance, make a change, and break
Traveling through this region, my news team and I are reminded of the depths of human suffering and despair we have seen in some foreign countries. But this is America, and many American families just need a chance. There are ways you can help, and you can find that information on our website at dateline.msnbc.com. That's all for now. I'm Ann Curry, and for all of us here at NBC News, good night.